Hi, welcome to Books and Bocadillos. My name is Mariandrea, and this is a very overdue weekend review video. I do this series on my channel where I try to do a weekly update video, and I haven't been able to for one thing or another. I've been a bit MIA, missing, and very behind on watching videos and creating videos. So this is my attempt to get back into the swing of things and reconnect with my friends here on this book in this booktube community. So let's get to it. I usually start these videos with highs and lows, and I'm going to do my best to be very clear and succinct in terms of recapping the last several weeks since I've been away. So I did a lot of traveling, and I one of the things that I did was my husband and I went to Portland, Oregon at the end of September, and we had a really great time. So we were there right when we transitioned from summer to fall. So the fall season started, we were in Oregon, and we really enjoyed it. We loved the weather. We cannot wait to visit again, if only just for the weather. There were a lot of other great things about Portland. The food was excellent. They have really great vegan food. People were really nice. Everything was so orderly, and I felt so safe. I had never felt so safe in a place. Um, that was really interesting. I think it was just really safe. And yeah, I can't wait to visit again. Went to Pelt's bookstore. I already shared that with you? I did a book haul. So that was the highlight. And then came home and it was still summer and it was yucky, hot summer weather up until just this last week. So this last week we had fall usher in through cool, crisp breeze, and I was at work one day and it just felt like this breeze hit my face and it was nice and cool and crisp and I loved it. So now that the weather has changed here in South Texas, I'm ready to feel festive and usher in the fall season, bring it into my home and just enjoy it a little bit more. I hadn't put up any decor and I'm starting to now, but I'm more excited about it now. I'm not so reluctantly uh, reluctantly delving into the fall vibes. So lows, really the most significant low was there was another death in my husband's family. So in the summer, my mother-in-law passed away, and in the last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with the passing of my brother-in-law, and we just had funeral and burial this week. So that's been a low, just feeling kind of low energy, grieving, um, trying to make sense of, you know, a sad situation. Um, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I hadn't posted anything about it because of like just privacy, and I didn't really feel comfortable talking about it. It's my husband's side of the family, so I just kind of didn't want to overshare or post too much about it. So may he rest in peace, and I will miss him dearly. Community posts. I just posted this evening, I posted a recipe. So for the recipe for this video, at the end, I usually share a recipe. So it's already been posted to my community post. It's the homemade chai vegan ice cream, and it was good. So it makes a quart, and I made it last week for Supper Club, and I had some this evening, and I'm just thinking, I mentioned Supper Club, so that was another highlight of not this weekend, but the previous one. And then another highlight I missed was I had my third annual silent reading party, my second annual with my friend Marty at her bookstore on Friday. I left the burial, came home to help set up for the silent reading party, and I really needed that. I love the energy of a silent reading party. I love how meditative it feels and how wonderful it is to sit in silence and read with friends. I absolutely love it. That is a highlight of my year. This silent reading party started being planned last year after we had our first one together, and it went so well, and everybody wanted it again. And again, it came up. People want it more often. People want more silent reading parties. So I think we're going to be hosting another one together for Christmas, but or for winter, however it rolls out with the calendar. But yeah, I'm really, really excited. I love these silent reading parties, and I am excited for the next one. I like hosting them too. I think that they're a lot of fun. I also made my go-to recipe for the ube cookies that I always talk about, and I just will always just gush about these cookies. They are the best. I got the recipe from Mia Pimananzala in her first book, Arsenic in Adobo. Such a good recipe for cookies, and people ask me for the recipe. Um, it was so funny. People came and they're like, "Did you make these cookies again this year?" And I was like, "Yes, they'd come last year, and they were looking forward to the cookies." So these cookies are my favorite cookie ever. So I made that, and that was, of course, one of my favorite things. A favorite thing with a favorite thing. My favorite cookie with my favorite um, people, and a silent reading party. Just, it was just a lot of really warm, fuzzy feelings inside, even though underneath there was a bit of grief. It was really nice to have those warm fuzzies in my life. No tags for the same reason. I just low energy, a lot on my mind, a lot like just emotionally drained. I just hadn't had the energy for a tag video, but I hope to get to one soon. What I read, so I'm gonna do a quick try to be brief. I don't want to keep you too long. So in September, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas with the I'm with the Band Books book club that MJ at Reading This Life hosts. And A Court of Thorns and Roses was not the Beauty and the Beast retelling that I wanted. I think there was a bit of comparison bias. I had read another Beauty and the Beast retelling that I loved more. And so I just, in comparing the two, you know, it just didn't live up to expectations and the hype. I do not agree that it should be banned. I don't see why it should be banned. It's not terribly explicit. Like, I think kids have access to more explicit things in music and TV and video games, and like, I don't know. I just didn't see why this book needs to be banned. Disagree 100%. It's not for kids. When I say kids, I'm like not talking about middle school or children. I'm talking about like teens. Like, this book, I think is appropriate for teens. I don't see why it needs to be banned for teens. And then I also read Brightly Remarkable Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and this was a great book. I think I gave this 4 or 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I listened to the audiobook, highly recommend the audio. It was really fun. It made me smile a whole lot. I laughed, I cried. I think these characters are memorable. Marcel, the octopus, oh my god. Love Marcel. Yeah, I highly recommend if you are into like a heartwarming family story and an octopus. I don't want to spoil it. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you like octopus and you like family stories, I think this is a good one. I also read The Pearl by John Steinbeck with Melinda out of Web Stories, and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm a Steinbeck stan. I loved it. 5 stars. I am going to continue reading all of Steinbeck's work. My favorite so far has been East of Eden. I really want to reread East of Eden also. And the next Steinbeck I want to read is The Grapes of Wrath. Next, I read, The Pearl I had, but I don't know where it's at. Another one that I had here is this one. I read this one in September, Magical / Realism, Essays on Music, Memory, Fantasy, and Borders by Vanessa Angelica Villarreal. So Vanessa Angelica Villarreal, she is originally from South Texas. She now lives in California. She writes a memoir told in essays. And I loved the way she analyzes identity, culture, family history, what it means to be Latina through the through the filters of music, pop culture, music, movies, video games, TV shows. If you are into video games and you like fantasy, she does a lot of referencing like fantasy video games, the Game of Thrones, and pop culture. Like that, we read this for my in real life book club with friends, and we all really loved it. We don't rate memoirs, but we all agreed that this was a great read. We can see ourselves referencing this, referring back to it, quoting it. There was a lot of really good stuff here, and I think the metaphors that she creates and the ways that she makes connections between pop culture and her family history and her trauma and her personal griefs, I think that she does a beautiful job at like making those connections. So I enjoyed it. I am glad to have it on my bookshelves, and I recommend it. I recommend it if you are Latina. If you're Latina, if you love someone that is Latina, if you are interested in a Latina perspective, own voices perspective, like a memoir, this is it. If you if you are not Latina and you're just interested in like getting a perspective, there might be references that she makes to like music you might not know about, but you can remedy that by looking it up on Spotify and hearing the sounds and the music that she references. So a big part of this was Selena, and I love Selena, and I think we are of the same peer group, same generation. So this is really, really cool. And then funny thing that another book that I read in October was also really, really connected to Selena. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. Then the next book I have here, I read in September. I read this on my way back from Portland, and this is Sandwich by Catherine Newman. This book was recommended to me by Melinda out of Web Stories because of the foodie references in it, and there were a lot of foodie references. This book is such a great book. I think I rated this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is a book of family secrets, and the family secrets are unveiled very delicately. You get to hear the secrets through like changing of going back and forth in time. So like the timeline goes back and forth through flashbacks, and as she tells herself the stories of the past, as she has conversations with her husband, as she has conversations with her parents and her daughter, and she is grappling with middle age, being a middle-aged woman. Her kids are growing up. They are leaving the nest. She and her husband are empty nesters, and they're going through a transition in their life and their marriage. And so it talks about a lot of like marriage and what it means to be in a marriage and how marriages change as they transition from season to season. And so it was just really, really rich in like family and life experiences that are very relevant. Especially like as a middle-aged woman, I was feeling connected to what the main character was going through, and I enjoyed how delicately the story was told. Kitchen. I read Kitchen on my way up to Portland. It was for Shorty September. So this one and Sandwich were 2 of my Shorty September reads. Kitchen I thought was a novella, and it's not. It is 2 short stories. I did not know that. I read this thinking I was reading a novella, so when one story ended and the other began, I was upset that the second story had no connection to the first story. And it felt like I was left hanging, and I really, really, I mean, I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the first story, and I wanted more, and it was super long. The first story was like most of the book. It was like this much, and then all of a sudden you have this much, and this is another story, and it's a whole other different set of characters and circumstances, and I was just not very happy. I don't remember what I rated this, but I didn't take it out on the author. I really liked her writing, and I wanted more from the first story. So, I think I gave it a good 3 or 4 stars, but, yeah. If you read this, no, it's 2 short stories, not 1 novella. Or 1 novella and a short story, maybe, but they're not connected. In October, I read Maas by Marcela Fuentes, and this is with Melinda out of Stories and her Marginals and Margaritas. I always forget the name of that book club. Marginals and Margaritas. So I had first heard about this book on the Book Riot podcast, and I picked it up and I listened to the audiobook in English, and I picked up the Spanish paperback because I didn't want to pay full price for a hardcover. Like, so spoiler, like this is not a book that I was like 5 stars. No, it was, I think I initially said I thought it was 4 stars, but I don't rate and have stars again, so I think I would have given it 3.5, but I rounded up to 4, and now as I'm thinking about it more, I think I'm just gonna bring it down to 3. So this is like a telenovela in written form. So I think this book does family secrets better than this one, which is why I'm comparing it to other books with like similar themes. Although this one is more dramatic and has more of the telenovela vibes and like the dun 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 and like that kind of like drama. Sandwich doesn't have that kind of drama flair. And this one does. This one does feel very much like a telenovela. It's told through 2 different perspectives. So you have Pilar and you have Mari. I already forgot. The other character. Lulu. Lulu. So it's Pilar and Lulu. So Mari is her best friend. That's why I got confused. Mari is Lulu's best friend. So Lulu is a teenager, senior in high school, and Pilar is this woman. And so it's told through multiple timelines. So you get Pilar's story back in the 1950s, and then you get Lulu's story in present, like the 90s. And yeah, the 90s. She is a huge Selena fan, and she, like, one of my gripes with this book is that we're like in the last few pages of the novel and we're at a Selena concert, and I was like, what are we doing at the Selena concert? But that's something that you would happen in the telenovela, that you'd be like, why are we here? Like, let's get on with the story. How is this going to end? So I think that was one of the things that I was like, ugh, so frustrating. I love Selena and I love a Selena concert, but come on, like, how are you going to wrap this up in just such a short amount of time? That was like my question. And I think, I mean, I enjoyed the book. I don't know. I don't know if I would reread it, and I think there were things that were frustrating me a little bit. I got the Spanish paperback because I didn't like in the English. Like, if you read the English, you'll see there's something in Spanish, like a phrase or a word, and then it's like spelled out in English, like what the Spanish reference was. And I get why, but it just felt like it was just more words. I don't know. I think I'm a footnotes person. If I'm reading something in a language that I don't understand, I don't need to have it told to me. I can just go and read the footnotes and get more info. But that's just me. Maybe not everybody's like me in that sense. But I'm hoping, like, I got the Spanish because I think if I do read it again, I'm gonna want to read it in Spanish, and maybe it won't have that redundancy for me. Since I understand both languages, it felt very redundant. Like, okay, yes, we know. I mean, I know, but I know not everybody does. But I still felt a little like annoyed, but low key. And then I also read The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this is for my in real life bookstore at my friend's local indie bookstore. They will be meeting this week. I will not be able to attend that meeting. I told her at the silent reading party that this was a 5-star book for me. I was so pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting this to be a 5-star book. I thought this might not be the best Silvia Moreno Garcia, but it was so good. And this is why, again, I think I need to keep my expectations low. This was not a hyped book. I hadn't heard anybody talk about this book. I hadn't seen it on any like best of list. I didn't have any expectations for this other than I thought like, oh, it might just be like a fun read, but not expecting it to be 5 stars. And it was so good. I loved it. 5 stars. I also want to now read everything that Silvia Moreno Garcia has written and do like a tier ranking video where I can talk about all the books. This is my 4th Silvia Moreno Garcia books. I've read Mexican Gothic, Certain Dark Things, Prime Meridian, and now The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. I am currently reading Woman of Light by Kali Fajardo Anstine, and Mimi from It's Mimi Duong is co-reading or buddy reading this with me. She is done, and I have not watched her video or really spent too much time talking to her about her final thoughts because I'm an hour and a half away from finishing on the audio. I'm going between that and my book. I haven't picked it up this weekend because it's been a busy weekend, but I'm probably going to finish it tomorrow. And then I'll be able to interact a little bit more and talk about my final thoughts. I am enjoying it. If you're thinking about reading Woman of Light by Kali Fajardo Anstine, I recommend the paperback version. I don't recommend the audio. The audio is very confusing. It goes back and forth between perspectives and timelines, and it almost feels like you're like getting short stories. And if you don't have the physical book, you're not seeing the timeline. Like in the front, there's like a family tree that tells you like where we're at in the family tree, and I kept having to like go back and forth to see like, okay, who is this person and how is this person related to this person? So yeah, it's really confusing. If I was reading the audiobook, I probably would not be enjoying it as much as I am, to be honest with you. I'm also reading Los Monstruos, Felice and the Wailing Woman by Diana Lopez. So this was my pick for the silent reading party. This is the book that I started on Friday at the silent reading party, and this is my pick for Halloween that is hosted by Storm Meads and I think other co-hosts. I just know Storm Mead has started hosting this event recently, like in the last couple of years, and I was able to jump in on the bandwagon, and this is my pick for Halloween. It's a middle grade novel, and it's about main character Felice. So Diana Lopez is the author. She is a local to me author. She's a South Texas author. She lives in Corpus Christi, Texas, and Felice is also from Corpus Christi, Texas. So the story takes place in Corpus, and then Felice travels down to the Rio Grande River, the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas to look for her mother. And she meets some friends, like misfits. Turns out that these tweens are all the children of supernatural beings, and how they come together and come to that realization is really interesting. And they also grapple with mental health, they grapple with anxiety, panic attacks, like grief, loss of a parent, death. They also talk about like friendship and family and how their family histories impact their own identities, and how like their parents' history does not has to affect them. So it's really neat how there's all these conversations about what is passed on from parent to child, and how as children how they take that on as part of their identity. And I think that's really a really clever thing to cover in a middle grade book. Sometimes we all need to kind of take a step back and say, this is my mother or my father, but this isn't me. So I liked how that is being told, and I haven't finished it. I still have a ways to go, but I'm really looking forward to continuing. I'm still reading Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. It's a library book, so I keep having to return it and check it out again, and the whole thing. But I'm enjoying it a lot more now. I'm starting to really see more of what is happening. I think I was so confused and disconnected from the story. Now I'm at a place where I'm enjoying it. I think it's going to be a good story. So we'll see. I haven't DNF'd any books, and in terms of community connections, I have a buddy read that I'm about to start tomorrow after I finish Woman of Light, which I'm buddy reading with Mimi. I'm starting a buddy read with Melinda out of Web of Stories, and we're going to be reading The Weaver and the Witch Queen by Genevieve. I don't remember her last name, but the author of The Witch's Heart. And it's like Nordic mythology. It's based on like Nordic mythology. I really enjoy Nordic mythology, so I'm really excited for it. And the podcast, I usually recommend a podcast that I've listened to recently. I listened to Levar Burton on the podcast Assembly Required with Stacey Abrams, and they talked about banned books. So if you're interested in conversations about book bans in the United States, check it out. I love Levar Burton, and I think Stacey Abrams is cool. So I am enjoying it. I enjoyed the podcast. I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Dia de los Muertos is coming up. I am going to be working on my altar this week. I'm also working on some Dia de los Muertos recipes and foods. I'm making sweet bread. I'm making pan de muerto. I'm making the conchas, the Mexican conchas, for my grandfather, and in memory of my grandfather. And I am looking forward to putting together my menu for Dia de los Muertos. And yeah, just enjoying the season. I have a couple of books lined up. There's a book that I want to read for Halloween. And there's another book that I have in mind for Dia de los Muertos. So I have these two books that I'll talk about later that I'm really looking forward to. I hope I get to them. So that is all that I have to share for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Hasta la próxima.